Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hey, preschool peeps and patrons.
Hi, peeps and patrons.
Thank you.
I've got to say that now, right?
Thank you to everyone and anyone who has been checking out our Patreon offerings and page. It's P-A-T-R. Yeah, I'm going to spell it because Patreon is, P-A-T-R. E-O-N, patreon.com / How Preschool Teachers Do It. And you can be a patron of this podcast too for as little as $5 a month. I feel like one of those commercials,
an infomercial,
where they try to get you to donate.
One of those commercials.
But actually, it's gonna help us to improve what we offer you. And speaking what we offer you, we're offering this question for this episode. Why has cleanup become the be-all end-all of teaching children responsibility?
Yeah. If you have an answer to that question, please tell us, because I don't get it.
I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people where they'll say, everyone must participate in cleanup, or this child is not cleaning up and they have to. And I'm like, okay, why? If other children are cleaning up and the space is getting cleaned up, can't we teach children about teamwork, cooperation, that people take different roles on teams, that they can say thank you to their teammates? Why are we so focused on every single child and cleanup? And people will tell me because it teaches them responsibility. So can a lot of other things. Yeah. And by the way, if teaching me as a child that I must clean up in class and my toys was going to teach me responsibility throughout the rest of my life, I'm not the world's best cleaner-upper.
Well,
I will admit that. I find ways around that.
I feel like
it's not my version of responsibility as an adult.
Yeah, but when we were kids, I think maybe we were so forced to clean up so often that now we resist it as an adult. That's my theory.
Maybe.
Because I'm like, this is my house. I do what I want. You know what I mean?
Okay, so that's a very interesting theory you have there, Allison. I hadn't thought about that. So why do I prefer to do and pay for almost anything so that I don't have to clean up? Maybe because I was forced as a young child when the person next to me loved to clean up, but the adults kept telling that person next to me, don't do it, you didn't make that mess, which is like, wait, okay. Do we want children to grow up to know how to cooperate with each other? And I have to tell you this too. When I think about my household, right now my children are grown; they don't live here, so it's me, it's my husband. If I happen to leave something on the table and he sees it, he will go throw it out or put it away. He doesn't think to himself, "I didn't put it there. I'm not tossing it in the garbage." That's not even what we want an adult value to be. I go into the kitchen, I will wash things, maybe put them in a dishwasher that I did not use. My husband used it, or maybe my son was visiting and used it. And I don't think to myself, I'm leaving it in the sink until these people come back because I'm not the one who used it.
That's the whole point of being part of a household, is everybody chips in as they are able to chip in. If you're at the sink and you're cleaning dishes, but you're only cleaning the dishes that you used, and you're going to leave your husband's dishes there because he used those, I didn't. That's just silly. You know?
It's just, I don't know. But even in a workplace, think about this. You're walking into a classroom, down a hall, wherever you're going, and you see that someone dropped Post-its. Do you look at them and go, well, I didn't drop it, and step right over them? Or do you pick up those Post-its?
You know, because it's part of being part of the environment of whatever you're in, your home environment, your school environment, your classroom environment. That's part of being a member of it. And there's going to be times that you pick up those Post-its or clean those dishes. And there's going to be other times that maybe you're like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Somebody else is going to do it. And you all kind of chip in when you are able to chip in. That's what being.
And in our classrooms, right, we can get get children to chip in doing different things through the responsibilities that we give them. Children should have jobs in the classroom because it gives them a sense of ownership over their space and teaches them responsibility. So you might have one child who this week pushes in the chairs, and you have another child who this week gives out the plates, and you have another child this week who checks to make sure the different areas are cleaned up before we leave the room. Another child turns the lights on and off. You can have these different responsibilities, and we can teach them responsibility that way instead of making cleanup something that they're going to eventually dislike or a means of not actually teaching them cooperation. Because who are we responsible to? I think the question is, when we're going to talk about the overarching word responsibility, who are we responsible to? And that speaks to different sorts of cultures.
Right.
Where I am from, we are a very independent culture, so we are taught self-help and self-responsibility.
Yeah.
But what does that look
Yeah.
like, by the way? What should that look like? And there are other cultures that are interdependent where they're taught to be responsible too and take help from the community.
Yeah.
So actually, in many cultures, for the children that you teach, it's fine if someone else cleans up after them because that's an interdependent culture. So why am I going against these cultural teachings? And even that whole, I have to, in an independent culture like mine, you have to be responsible for you. So does that mean I never cooperate with anybody else or never accept that cooperation? It's when you really dig into why has cleanup become the bastion of all responsibility, I think it's a much deeper topic than my initial question
It
might
is.
have
Yeah.
led one to
Yeah.
believe.
I feel like the whole cleanup issue leads to a lot of like resentment and frustration amongst the children. So like in that example you gave before, like there's a child not cleaning and a lot of teachers will be like, you've done your part, you don't have to clean anymore, to little Sally or Johnny or whoever. And now it's like, okay, now I want to clean and you're not letting me. So now I'm resentful of this guy over here who didn't clean because I'm not allowed to clean his up. And then it causes this like crazy, like mental trip, I think. And it's like, just if she wants to help or he wants to if he wants to clean the entire room and everybody else, just let him do it.
Let them do
Let him
it.
do
Let
it,
them
because
do
then
it.
when he gets older, maybe he's
There,
going to have this great job of like, hey, I help other people clean. I'm an organizer or whatever it is, or like, just let him do it.
oh,
Let him do
you
it.
could be one of those. Not not feng shui, Marie Kondo
Oh yes,
organizer.
yes,
Isn't that like you can be a what is that? Where the whole like what gives you joy
yeah,
organizer. There's there are people who are as part of their inborn natural temperament who are just more apt to clean up than
yes.
others. That's
That's it.
it. There are just people who, and we can teach children to be responsible for their things in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be that transitional time. And by the way, transition's really hard for
Yeah.
children, right? They were doing something that they enjoyed.
Now
Now
you're
you're
telling me
saying
how
to
to
them you have
clean
to
up.
clean up and go do something
Yeah,
else. That's just a hard time of day. And if we were to do things that were fun and educational during that time of day, like the songs that you can sing, not the cleanup song, but other songs that you can
yeah,
sing that maybe a little more educational would be good, require more movement, we can really motivate them to pick things up. And we can say to children, let's say, one child just loves to clean up. We can bring them over and say, he
you
cleaned
cleaned
up
up.
your blocks. Let's
Well,
say
yeah, yeah,
thank you and think about how we can help him with something else. How can we help him with something else later? Maybe you can push in his chair
yeah,
later
yeah,
and you can talk to the two children about how they can help each other.
yeah.
Um, there are so many things that we do with young children that we individualize, or we should.
Mhm.
And
And
cleanup's
clean up.
kind of the same.
Yeah,
There are some children who, if they pick up one thing and put it on the shelf, that's a triumph
yeah.
that day.
Yeah, well, I think you're hitting some nails on the head here. It's like everything is so individualized in so many areas, but cleanup is so generalized. Like cleanup is like, oh,
Yes.
everybody's got to do it. It's not fair if they don't, kind of thing. And it's like, but really, for like little Bobby, maybe cleaning up one thing might be a big triumph for him. That you could build on that individually with him. Say, okay, you cleaned up one. next time, let's see if we can do two. You know what I mean? And just see, like, why does it have to be like, oh, but you didn't play your part? You know, Sally cleaned up 30 things and you cleaned up one. You know, like, why? Why is it like this big comparison? Is the room clean at the end? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. That's usually how I am. I'm like, is it clean? All right, awesome. Let's get to where we need to be now. You know?
When I taught kindergarten, I had a student who really didn't like cleanup. He enjoyed math, literacy, all these other activities, but cleanup, he just really didn't like cleanup. And he did what people will do when they don't want to do something they don't like, is he tried to distract
Yeah.
me. He would come over, you know, when kids were cleaning up, he all of a sudden had a very important question to ask me and needed to talk to me or needed to show me something. And one time, and he was just this really funny, bright child. And I said to him one time, are you avoiding? Are you trying not to clean up? And he looked at me and said, yeah.
He knew
And I
exactly what he
said,
was doing.
is a good effort. I said, it's a good effort. He said, thanks. And the two of us laughed.
I bet you he's a politician now.
I'll bet you that he still does not clean up. And this was years ago. He's
A
at least
teenager?
college,
Yeah,
if not
maybe older.
older
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
right? So I'm pretty sure someone else cleans up in his world. Whether it's a partner, a cleaning person, someone else in his world is
Probably
cleaning up.
still very, very successful in his life, even though he doesn't clean. Okay.
This is a very individual thing. And I also want to say something else about cleanup that people don't think about. That is a hard process for children because of how many steps it
A lot
is.
of steps.
We say cleanup like it's one thing, but it's not one thing. It's here's the steps for cleaning up. They are go over, pick it up, put it on the
Put
shelf,
it in the right.
come back and
Yeah.
get another one.
But
So that's 5 steps.
it's also, I think, more complicated within those steps of like, not only are you just picking it up and putting it in a bin and putting that bin on the shelf, you got to pick it up, look at it. What bin does this go in? Oh, this is a block. This goes in this block bin. This bin goes where? Not on any shelf, the block shelf. And in some classrooms, it's so like specific, like that bin has to go right here in the left. And so it's like this complicated thing that like, they can't think that far ahead. You know, they can't, like, that's why you have some kids are like, I'm just going to throw this all in one bin, throw it on the shelf. I don't even care what shelf it's on because it's clean. She'll look around and be like, look, it's clean. You know?
It's also why children just, when you're singing your cleanup song and you're telling them to clean up, they're just walking around the room. They don't even know where to start. It is too much. On a really good day, we expect young children to follow 1 to 2 steps in a row.
Yes.
Right? They can't necessarily, most children in the early childhood years would struggle to follow at least 5 steps in a row. Also, so do many adults. I want you to think about, folks, you've cooked something, you've performed that recipe multiple times. How many steps do you get in before you think I should look at the recipe and make sure I'm right about this? Because we also struggle with doing too many steps in a row without guidance. So that's why we have recipes that we will refer to over and over and over again throughout our lives to make sure we've done the steps right. This cleanup is a recipe of doing certain activities, and children need to be guided through those steps. So we can teach them first, pick it up and put it on a shelf. We can teach them, pick it up and put it on a shelf by where you see a picture of it or an outline of it. We can teach them that. But to stand in a room and say to children, you're walking around, nothing's in your hands, you need to pick something up. Well, then they pick it up and put it down because, again, it's many, many steps for very young children. So we need to break it down, make it more palatable and easier, and make it more fun.
Yeah. Well, because I think like so many things we do that with. We're so like specific about teaching them certain things, you know, and then all of a sudden when cleanup happens, you're like, oh, they just know how to do that. I don't have to teach them that. They're just going to know how to do it. And it's like, no, you really do need to teach them that, you know, and you need to also be an active participant in that, because here's what I see a lot of times. Teacher goes, okay, it's time to clean up. And that teacher is off preparing whatever they're doing next, you know, be it meeting time or whatever. And they're not actually watching. And that's how you get those kids that are like, if I just walk around, she's going to look every 2 seconds and be like, look, I look busy, but really I'm not doing anything. Okay. But if you actively,
I have a very
yeah,
important question.
yeah. But if you like actively participate in their cleanup and like talk them through the steps as you are also doing it with them, now they're gonna be like,
Hmm.
oh, that's how you clean up. Look, she's doing it, and like that they learn by watching you, and you can narrate it as you're
Yes.
doing it so that they can like hear it too. And then they'll be like, oh, that's how you clean up. So maybe next time they'll learn it better. It's gonna take so much repetition though. Like you can't just like say, okay, I taught them once, I taught them on the first day of school how to clean. Now I just expect them to know it. Like this is like an ongoing thing that you're gonna have to keep reinforcing.
Yes. And I think it should be a means for teaching cooperation, teamwork, and appreciation,
Yeah.
not just personal responsibility,
Yeah.
right? There's so many lessons that can come out of what happens in a room during cleanup. And maybe you're going to be working in a space where the children love the cleanup song and it prompts them all to pick
Yeah.
things up.
Right.
That's
Know your
lovely.
kids.
And
Yeah.
then you're going to come to another year
Doesn't
where that
work.
doesn't work
Yeah.
because we have all different temperaments and personalities. And I don't think of all the things that I need to have children to do. And when you think about it, it's a lot. They have a lot of responsibility for young people all day
Yeah.
long. When I have to get them to do certain things that keep us safe and keep us healthy, right? It's their responsibility after they blow their nose to put that tissue in the
Yeah.
garbage. It's their responsibility maybe to take their plate
Yep.
from snack and put that in
Yeah.
the garbage. It's their responsibility to hang up their coat. Even if they need
Yeah.
help, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can ask for help, but it's your responsibility to ask for
Yeah.
help. It's your responsibility to put the things in your folder. It's your there are so
So
many
many
things that they
things.
are personally
Yeah.
responsible for. We don't have to harp on this because of all the things I have to harp on. This
This
doesn't
isn't
have to be in the
enough on.
top 5.
Yeah.
I've got to harp on not climbing the fence on the playground. I have to harp
Yeah.
on walking in the hallway. I have to harp on other things that are going to keep them safe. I have to make sure of a lot of things that these children are going to do throughout their day, and you have a lot of things to teach them. I think cleanup can be de-stressed
Yeah.
if we just went, oh, okay, we're going to let the children who love to clean up clean up. We're going to encourage the others to participate and thank them by going over and modeling and helping them. And when you have those children who simply are not cleaner uppers, figure out what other responsibility they can have during that time of day,
Yeah. Right.
right? There's got to be something else they can do other than put things on a shelf. Maybe they can go over and push in the chairs and make sure all the garbage is in the garbage. And, there's got to be other things that you can say, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this, and kind of
Yeah.
divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about depressurizing. I can't come up with another word. I don't know.
Depressurizing.
Depressurizing your cleanup time and remembering that teaching children about helping each other is also a really important and good lesson.
Yeah.
And now I don't even know why because we didn't sing it, but the cleanup song is in my
Yeah, it's in
head.
my head too.
It just stays with you. And I never really sang that song, by the way, in my class.
I never sang that
I
song
did other
either.
things to get them excited.
Yeah.
Like we would do a cleanup dance party, maybe. We would do all sorts of things that made it a little more fun or educational or finger plays between cleaning up. And yet the song
The
is
song is
just like
there.
it's part of the air, I guess.
So many people have used
All
the
right, I'm
song.
going to go
That's
and
why.
let that just,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to let that just kind of go through my brain while you all go. Think about how can I facilitate that transition of cleanup in a way that respects the individual children and teaches them all these other wider lessons. What other responsibilities can I give them? And oh, by the way, did I check out the Patreon for this podcast? Those are the things you need to think about.
There you go.
And, we have some people to recognize around the world and in our country, so we're going to do that. In the top 5,
Oh,
this
Super
week,
excited about this one.
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
I know. Hello, preschool peeps in Nigeria. Please tell all your friends and colleagues to come listen too. And within the United States, a new state in the top 5, Oklahoma. I do not believe we've
No, we
recognized Oklahoma
haven't. We
before.
absolutely haven't. Yeah. Yay. Hi, Oklahoma.
Hello, Oklahoma. I keep saying we're going to eventually end up repeating, but we
We
still
haven't
have new
yet.
people coming
Yeah,
into
we
our
have
top
not
5.
yet. So that's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So please tell your friends and your colleagues to listen, and maybe your state and or country will be shouted
Yay.
out on the podcast. Okay, folks. Catch you
Bye,
later.
peeps.
Enjoy preschool peeps.